They handed me the baby monitor and pointed to the back bedroom. "Just keep the kids quiet during the party," she said with that smile. The same smile she used when she needed something. I was supposed to celebrate their new house, the house I helped them buy, but instead I spent the night changing diapers while she played hostess downstairs, until her friends found out who really owned their mortgage. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever been invisible in your own family's success story? Have you ever been the foundation that nobody talks about, the support that gets taken for granted? This isn't just about babysitting. This is about the moment I realized I'd been cast as the help in my own son's life. If you've ever felt used by the people you love most, stay with me. Subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Catherine. I'm 61 years old, and 3 months ago I learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's servitude. It started with the house. My son James and his wife Victoria had been renting a cramped apartment for 2 years, barely making ends meet on his teacher's salary and her part-time marketing job. They had twin boys, Noah and Ethan, 3 years old, and full of energy that their tiny place couldn't contain. When Victoria got pregnant with their third child, they were desperate. The apartment had one bedroom, a living room the size of a closet, and a kitchen where you couldn't open the refrigerator if someone was standing at the stove. "Mom," James called me one evening, his voice heavy with worry. "I don't know what we're going to do. Victoria's crying every night. The boys are sharing a bed, and with the baby coming." I heard Victoria in the background, her voice sharp. "Tell her about the house." "There's this house," James continued. "Perfect neighborhood, good schools, big backyard for the boys. But we can't qualify for the mortgage alone." I knew what was coming. It was the same conversation we'd had when James needed co-signing for his student loans, when Victoria's car broke down, when they couldn't afford the twins' daycare. "How much do you need?" I asked. "We need a co-signer, someone with good credit and stable income. The mortgage would be in both our names, but I'd be responsible if you can't pay." "Mom, we'd never let that happen. This is just to get us started. Once Victoria goes back to work full-time after the baby, we'll refinance and take your name off." Victoria's voice in the background. "Catherine, you have to help us. It's your grandchildren who will suffer if we don't get this house." So I said yes. Of course I said yes. I co-signed the mortgage, put down half the down payment from my savings, and became legally responsible for a $350,000 house that I would never live in. The house was beautiful. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, hardwood floors, a kitchen with granite countertops that Victoria photographed obsessively for her Instagram. The backyard was huge, perfect for the boys to run around in. For the first month after they moved in, I was invited over constantly. Victoria would call and say, "Catherine, could you come help me arrange the living room?" Or, "The boys miss their grandmother. Come for dinner." I was happy to help. I painted their guest bedroom, helped them hang pictures, even paid for the professional cleaning service when they moved in, because Victoria said the previous owners had left the house absolutely filthy. But slowly the invitations changed. Instead of "come for dinner," it became, "could you watch the boys while James and I go furniture shopping?" Instead of "help me arrange the living room," it became, "could you clean the kitchen while I rest?" Pregnancy is exhausting. I told myself it was temporary. Victoria was 7 months pregnant, working part-time, trying to manage a new house and twin toddlers. Of course she needed help. But then came the party. "We're having a housewarming party," Victoria announced during one of my babysitting visits. "Next Saturday. Nothing big, just some friends and neighbors." "That sounds wonderful," I said. bouncing Noah on my knee while Ethan played with blocks at my feet. "The thing is," Victoria continued, her voice taking on that careful tone I'd learned to recognize, "we're going to need someone to watch the kids during the party. You know how they get around strangers, and with all the noise and people." I looked up from Noah's giggling face. "You want me to babysit during the party?" "Not babysit," she said quickly. "Just keep them upstairs and quiet. You could watch TV, order takeout, make yourself comfortable. The party will probably only last a few hours." "But I'd miss the whole celebration." Victoria's smile tightened slightly. "Catherine, this is really important to us. These are potential clients for my business, James's colleagues, our new neighbors. We need to make a good impression. The boys are sweet, but you know how loud they get when they're excited." I felt something sink in my chest. "What about James? Doesn't he want his mother at the party?" "Of course he does. But someone needs to watch the kids, and honestly, you're so good with them. They love you. It would mean the world to us." I should have said no. I should have suggested they hire a babysitter, or ask one of Victoria's friends, or simply include the children in their celebration. But I didn't. "Okay," I said. "I'll watch the boys." Saturday arrived with perfect weather. I drove to their house at 4 p.m., an hour before the party started. Victoria answered the door in a flowing blue dress that perfectly complemented her pregnant glow, her hair professionally styled, her makeup flawless. "You look beautiful," I told her honestly. "Thank you. The boys are upstairs already. I set up the portable DVD player in the master bedroom, and there are snacks and juice boxes in the mini fridge we put up there." Mini fridge in the bedroom. For a babysitting setup that was supposed to last a few hours. I climbed the stairs, my purse heavy with activities I'd brought to keep the boys entertained. The master bedroom had been transformed into a makeshift playroom. Blankets on the floor, toys scattered around, the DVD player set up on the dresser, and yes, a small refrigerator humming in the corner. This wasn't a temporary arrangement. This was a carefully planned exile. The boys ran to me as I entered, their faces bright with excitement. "Grandma, are you staying for the party?" "I'm staying with you," I said, sitting on the floor and pulling them close. "We're going to have our own party up here." Through the bedroom window, I could see cars pulling into the driveway. Couples dressed in cocktail attire, carrying wine bottles and gift bags. The kind of neighbors and friends who could afford to live in this expensive subdivision. The party sounds drifted up from below. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. I helped the boys build a fort with the blankets and tried to ignore the way my chest tightened every time I heard Victoria's bright laugh echoing from the living room. Around 6 p.m., James appeared in the doorway. He was wearing a button-down shirt I'd never seen before, his hair perfectly styled, looking like the successful young professional he was becoming. "How's it going up here?" he asked, but his eyes were already drifting back toward the stairs. "We're having fun," I said. "The boys are being perfect angels." "Great. Victoria wanted me to bring you a plate." He handed me a paper plate with a few appetizers, the kind of food you'd give to someone who wasn't really part of the event. "James," I said quietly, "maybe I could come down for just a few minutes? Say hello to people?" He glanced nervously toward the stairs. "Mum, the thing is, Victoria's really stressed about this party. She's trying to impress some potential clients, and the boys can come with me. They're your children. These are your neighbors. Why can't your family be part of your celebration?" James's face flushed slightly. "It's not that simple. Victoria worked really hard on this party. She has a vision for how she wants everything to go." A vision that didn't include his mother or his children. I understand, I said, though I didn't. Go back to your party. We're fine up here. He kissed the boys goodnight and disappeared back downstairs. Through the floor, I could hear his voice joining the conversation, warm and social and completely untroubled by the fact that half his family was hidden away like a secret. At 7 p.m., Noah started getting cranky. He was tired and overstimulated by the noise from below. Ethan was bouncing off the walls, asking every 5 minutes when he could go see the party. I tried to keep them quiet, but 3-year-olds aren't naturally quiet creatures. That's when Victoria appeared in the doorway, her smile strained. Is everything okay up here? We can hear the boys downstairs. They're just excited, I said. Maybe if they could come down for a few minutes? Catherine. Victoria's voice was sharp now, the pretense of sweetness dropping away. We talked about this. The boys need to stay up here. Some of my clients are here, and this is really important for my business. But they're just children celebrating their new house. This isn't their party, Victoria interrupted. This is an adult event. I need you to keep them quiet and upstairs. That's what we agreed to. She turned and walked away, leaving me staring at the empty doorway. That's when I realized what I really was to them. Not James's mother, not the boy's grandmother. I was the hired help, hidden away, so I wouldn't interfere with Victoria's perfect evening. Around 8 p.m., I heard unfamiliar voices in the hallway. Victoria was giving someone a tour of the house. And this is the master bedroom, she was saying. We love the natural light from these windows. The door opened, and Victoria walked in with 2 women I didn't recognize, both holding wine glasses, both dressed elegantly. Oh, Victoria said, as if surprised to find us there. This is Catherine. She's helping us with the boys tonight. Helping them. Not James's mother, not the grandmother. The help. One of the women smiled politely at me. How nice. It's so hard to find good childcare these days. Catherine is wonderful with children, Victoria agreed. She's very reliable. They continued the tour, talking about the walk-in closet and the ensuite bathroom, while I sat on the floor, surrounded by toys and juice boxes, invisible again. But then something happened that changed everything. At 8:30, I heard new voices downstairs. A woman with a distinctive laugh, a man with a booming voice. The boys heard them too. That's Mrs. Patterson, Noah exclaimed. From the bank. Ethan jumped up. I want to see Mrs. Patterson. Mrs. Patterson, the loan officer who'd processed their mortgage application. The woman who knew exactly who had co-signed this loan, who had put down the down payment, who was legally responsible for this house. The boys ran toward the door before I could stop them. They burst out of the bedroom and ran downstairs, calling, Mrs. Patterson! Mrs. Patterson! I followed them down, my heart pounding, knowing I was violating Victoria's strict instructions, but unable to let the boys navigate the party alone. The living room was full of well-dressed adults, holding wine glasses and small plates. Victoria was in the center of the room, glowing in her blue dress, playing the perfect hostess. The boys ran straight to a woman in her 50s with silver hair and a kind smile. Mrs. Patterson, from the bank. Noah! Ethan! She exclaimed, setting down her wine to hug them. How are my favorite little clients? Victoria's face went white. Mrs. Patterson, she said quickly, I didn't realize you knew the boys. Know them? These little guys were at every single appointment when their grandmother was setting up your mortgage. Catherine, there you are. Mrs. Patterson looked past Victoria and smiled warmly at me. How are you, dear? The room went quiet. Victoria's perfect party atmosphere cracked like thin ice. "Grandmother?" one of Victoria's elegant friends asked, looking confused. Mrs. Patterson looked around the room, clearly sensing the tension, but not understanding it. "Yes, Catherine here co-signed the mortgage and put down— What was it, dear? 40,000 for the down payment?" 50, I said quietly. The silence stretched. Victoria's clients and neighbours were looking back and forth between me, the woman they'd been told was the babysitter, and Mrs. Patterson, who was clearly describing me as the homeowner. "Wait," said one of the men Victoria had been trying to impress. "Are you saying Catherine owns this house?" "Co-owns it," Mrs. Patterson clarified helpfully. "The mortgage is in both names, but Catherine's credit and down payment made it possible. Such a generous mother, helping her family get started." Victoria looked like she might faint. James appeared from the kitchen, took one look at the scene, and went pale. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Victoria said weakly. "What misunderstanding?" asked Mrs. Patterson. "Catherine, didn't you tell your friends that you helped buy this beautiful house?" I looked around the room, at Victoria, who had spent the evening treating me like hired help, at James, who had hidden his own mother away to avoid embarrassing his wife, at their guests, who were now seeing the truth. "Actually," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in months, "I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone tonight. I've been upstairs with the boys." "Upstairs?" Mrs. Patterson looked confused. "But this is your celebration too. This house wouldn't exist without you." One of Victoria's elegant friends, the one who'd commented on how hard it was to find good childcare, was staring at me with dawning horror. "Oh my God," she whispered. "We thought you were the nanny." The room erupted in uncomfortable murmurs. Victoria's perfect party was dissolving into whispers and shocked looks. Mrs. Patterson, bless her, seemed to understand the situation now. She put her arm around my shoulders. "Catherine, why don't you come sit down? You look like you could use a glass of wine." "I'd like that," I said. As Mrs. Patterson led me toward the kitchen, I heard the conversation starting behind us. Victoria's guests were putting the pieces together. The woman they'd dismissed as the help was actually the financial backbone of the celebration they were attending. In the kitchen, Mrs. Patterson poured me a generous glass of red wine. "Honey, what's going on here? Why were you upstairs babysitting at your own family's housewarming party?" I took a sip of wine and felt something loosen in my chest. "Because that's what they needed me to be tonight. The invisible woman who makes everything possible but doesn't get invited to the celebration." Mrs. Patterson shook her head. "That's not right, Catherine. This is your house too. Your investment. Your risk. Your family." Through the kitchen window, I could see Victoria in the backyard, pacing and talking on her phone. James appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Mum, can we talk?" "About what?" I asked. "About tonight. Victoria's really upset. She says you embarrassed her in front of her clients." I stared at my son, this man I'd raised, who I'd worked double shifts to put through college, who I'd co-signed a mortgage for just 3 months ago. "I embarrassed her? She worked so hard on this party, Mom. She just wanted everything to be perfect." "And I ruined it by existing? That's not what I meant." "James," I interrupted, "do you know what I did tonight? I spent 4 hours in your bedroom, keeping your children quiet and hidden, so your wife could pretend to be something she's not. I paid for this house. I co-signed your mortgage. I put my financial security on the line for your family's future. And in return, I got a paper plate of appetizers and instructions to stay invisible." James's face crumpled. Mum, I'm sorry. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. You didn't think about how it would feel for your mother to be treated like hired help in a house she helped buy. You didn't think about what message you're sending your sons about how family treats each other. You didn't think about me at all. The kitchen fell silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of party guests in the living room, their voices subdued now, the celebration mood thoroughly broken. What do you want me to do? James asked quietly. I looked at my son, this man I'd loved and supported and sacrificed for, and realized I was done making it easy for him to take me for granted. I want you to decide what kind of man you're going to be, I said. The kind who stands up for his mother, or the kind who hides her away when it's convenient. I set down my wine glass and walked toward the front door. Where are you going? James called after me. Home, I said. To my house, the one I don't have to hide in. The drive home was quiet, just the hum of my car and the streetlights passing by my windows. I felt lighter than I had in months, like I'd set down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for a moment and let the silence settle around me. My phone buzzed with text messages, but I didn't look at them. Inside my house, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat in my favorite chair. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was honest. No pretense, no performance, no hiding. Over the next few days, the calls and messages continued. James called every morning, his voice getting more desperate each time I didn't answer. Victoria left voicemails that swung between defensive explanations and tearful apologies. But it was Mrs. Patterson's call on Wednesday morning that changed everything. Catherine, honey, I've been thinking about Saturday night. You put $50,000 into that house, plus you're liable for the full mortgage. You deserve to be treated as an equal partner, not as a silent investor. That afternoon, I called my lawyer. The conversation was enlightening. Mrs. Anderson, as a co-signer and co-owner, you have several options. You could demand to be bought out of your share. You could force a sale of the property. Or you could simply exercise your rights as a co-owner. 3 days later, I was sitting in Victoria and James's living room with a folder in my lap. I've been thinking about our arrangement, I said. And I've realized it's not working. Victoria's face went white. Catherine, please, we can work this out. I'm willing to sign over my share of the house to you, I said. In exchange, you'll pay me market rate for my $50,000 investment, plus interest, $78,000, cash, within 30 days. The silence that followed was deafening. We don't have that kind of money, James said quietly. Then you have two other options. Get a loan to buy me out, or sell the house and we'll split the proceeds. Victoria started crying. You're destroying our family. No, I said firmly. I'm setting boundaries. For the first time in our relationship, I'm asking to be treated as an equal partner instead of a convenient resource. You know we can't afford that, James said. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you treated me like hired help at your housewarming party. I stood up, gathering my papers. You have 30 days to decide. Buy me out, get a loan, or sell the house. Those are your options. And if we don't? James asked. Then I exercise my rights as a co-owner. I move in. My name is on the deed, James. Legally, I have as much right to live here as you do. The call came 18 days later. Victoria's voice was small and defeated. Catherine, we think we can get a home equity loan to buy out your share. That's wonderful. Have your lawyer contact mine when you're ready to proceed. Maybe after we settle this, we could work something out. With the boys, I mean. If you want to see them. Victoria, I said gently. I never stopped wanting to see my grandsons. But I won't be hidden away or treated like hired help anymore. If you want me in their lives, I'll be their grandmother, not their babysitter. I understand, she said quietly. I think I owe you an apology. A real one. Yes, I said. You do. 6 months later, I was sitting at Victoria and James's dining room table, sharing Sunday dinner with my family. The boys were chattering about school. Victoria was asking my advice about her business, and James was carving the roast. As he passed me the potatoes, he caught my eye and smiled. Thanks for being here, Mum. Thanks for asking me to stay. This was what I'd wanted all along. Not to be needed, but to be valued. Not to be used, but to be loved. Not to be hidden, but to be seen. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own stories in the comments. Your voice matters.